So we do have a bit of time set aside here for folks to ask questions of Calliope about what that process has been like, about how, if you're just curious about different aspects of her Student Voices project. So thanks, Libby, for taking down the slides so that everybody can see each other. And yeah, we'll just have a little bit of time for any curiosities or things that folks want to chat about with Calliope.
Well, I think it helps them in planning, right? Like when I know it's tomato soup lunch, I'm like, I'm out, right? I'm gonna have to think about, can I get to the salad bar, or can I eat more breakfast, or can I ask for more snacks, or something like that. And I think there is a lot of that, like, oh no, I don't like any of that. I'm like, great, you know that now, because when you get into that dining hall, it's so overwhelming, and then your caloric intake, it's you're already not meeting what you need because you're out here exercising and you're not used to that. But now you get to know that you're not going to eat the tomato soup with the grilled cheese sandwich 2 days before or the day of, and you have that autonomy, and that you're empowered to say, well, what do I do? I'm really hungry and I don't like my lunch. It's so much easier to deal with if you're not in the middle of the dining hall and everyone's passing around the tomato soup. Well, I think we're lucky we have dining hall point people, dining hall stewards, they're called dining hall stewards. So they announce things during lunch and say, okay, now here's the alternative choices. Here's their salad bars, for example, or things like that. I would say a good number of students are worried about at least 2 meals every week when they see the menu, and there's time. It's like, okay, that's Thursday lunch. They don't want barbecue chicken, whatever it is, right? And so there's time, and it's not such an urgent part. And I get you on the communication with the kitchen part. That was a huge hump, to try to pull nutrition and eating as my lane so that I could get to the kitchen and be like, I need to know in advance what we have to get the menus built, to get them shared out. And oftentimes it'll say, dessert will be surprise. I'm like, no, we can't, don't say surprise, just say to be announced. Because even surprise is not awesome for some people, like, it's a new era. Like, control is harder and harder to obtain when everything is chaos. And I think that if someone knows that there's apples in the dining hall, they can eat an apple, then just wait for dinner. That's better. And to know ahead of time that this person might not have enough calories, that's going to help me when the meltdown happens at 5:30 and everyone thinks there's something wrong with this person. It's like, oh, but this is the person who said they weren't going to eat lunch. Like, let's start with, are you hungry?
Yeah, we have a question in the chat that maybe I'll read out loud. You said you're now on the third iteration of questions. What has driven that change of the questions or phrasing?
Oh, you're awesome. Thanks for asking. It was like, sometimes I'm like, this is useless. Like, why did I ask that? The first round, I can think of one where it was like, these are things that help me stay strong, which I thought was really like, oh, and it was like sports, religion, spirituality, my family, my pets. And it's like anyone who had a pet circled my pets, right? Anyone who, sometimes someone would circle all of them. And I was like, well, how does any of the answers in here, there's nothing in these answers that will help me help you in a moment feel strong. I don't have your pet. I don't have your family. Do you want to pray? We can help you with that. But like, that's not what you're reaching for in a moment when you're out here just feeling like everything's overwhelming. It's so I took that question out. Same with, there was a scale question, like on a scale of 0 to 5, but it was too subjective. I couldn't pull anything around how you're feeling about coming to outdoor school. Like, I can't help you with that. I wanted to change it to things that we could actually have as actionable items, because somebody else already knows that you're neither here nor there if you're going to outdoor school or not, or you're anti. Like, people already know that. You've expressed you don't want to go. Like, that's okay. So instead, I have that space at the bottom. It's like, please tell us anything else, because it was like, I don't want to go. Okay, I'll see you Sunday, you know, and I'll know that you didn't want to be here. And I'll remember that when I see you on Friday. And like, we'll go from there. So, and then Guppy asked a lot of questions about, the person who's doing it at Westwind asked about, and we kept it. It's the question, these are things I'm still curious about. And it's like the schedule, the cabins, the weather, things like that. So we put that one back in because I was like, oh, if you want to know about, say, the menu, for example, I want to make note of that. So I want to make sure that everyone knows where the menus are so that you can always take a peek and talk about it.
Question in the chat.
Yeah, awesome. I'll read that one out too. Thanks, Libby. It says, what information do you share with the site staff, and how do you share that information with them? What information is not shared with the site staff from the forms you receive and what the students fill out?
Oh, that's great. So I used to only share what I thought they would care about, because our staff meeting is so long already in the mornings. I didn't want, our Sunday mornings, I didn't want to take up too much of their time. So in the spring, it was only very, very pointed things like, maybe this person wrote, I'm scared I'm going to fall out of bed and I pee the bed. And there's nothing on the health history form that says that they wet the bed. And there's nothing, of course, the teacher's not going to write that. So then I would put that one in, like, this kid needs a bottom bunk. And I would let them know. But then once they started seeing the forms, they would just sit there and pour through them because, of course, they know the kids much better than I do. And so this fall, since we had it on the Google form, I just copied and pasted the whole Excel sheet in, printed it, made 13 copies, and everyone got one, this fall, and they loved it. And they had different parts that they cared about. Like, this person loves to draw. Well, all of our artistic teammates were like, oh, well, let's make sure we get them drawing, or, things like that. And so they loved it. And so now that we're going back to paper, the goal is that I get them all entered before Sunday so that we can return to, or keep it at them receiving that Excel sheet. Yeah, because before I would just wait and listen for their names, or I would check their notes to see, if, Taylor, I like that name right now. If Taylor's name is showing up on behaviors or things like that, then I would go to them and be like, oh, Taylor loves Fortnite, maybe try that, or something like that. And now it's all in their hands. Then we all just know what, and it's private, but it's not health history necessarily, because it's just who are you and how do you take care of yourself,
Deborah, maybe I'll read your follow-up question, or do you want to read it?
I can. I
Go
was
for it.
just
Yeah.
that was really interesting to hear around. And my question is, do you have any concerns about someone learning something personal about a student that they didn't want shared? Like, I'm just curious how you think about that in terms of students giving permission or not to share things, or has that not come up as a concern?
I hadn't thought of it that way, because that's a good question. Because yeah, I'm thinking about when we didn't ask a class and the kids came out, and then the kids share stuff in the cabins that we need to be on top of around self-harm. And I'm finding that we have to have more and more conversations around that out here, which I'm like, they're babies, but then I'm like, not anymore, So but so far, that's interesting because so far I haven't received anything where on my end in assessing that I'm like, oh, that's sensitive, you know. But that
Yeah.
is something to consider because
Like
yeah, I don't write anywhere on there like we're gonna work on this. We're all gonna know what you write. Like I haven't prefaced it in that way at all.
That makes me wonder, like, if you know anything about, or you've heard from teachers about when they're implementing or like passing out the forms, how they're describing it. Because I could imagine the kids are not necessarily, I mean, it would depend on how the teacher presented it. The kids are expecting this form's going to be shared with the staff at the outdoor school program. That's why they're asking me to fill it out. But yeah, I'm just curious if you have heard anything from teachers about how they present that to students when they
Mm.
ask them to fill out the survey.
Yeah, and that's where I'm really removed still because it's the staff go and meet the teachers. The staff are in the classroom. I know this year the staff took the forms with them to the classroom, which was new, to try to get more engagement around like, we want you to do this thing for us, will you? Like that handoff with the instructors. But yeah, I wonder what they say.
Yeah, I think it's worth thinking about, even if it's just to be transparent. We are going to share this with the adults at outdoor school, just so the students are informed about what you're doing with it. And then also making sure the staff understand that this is someone's personal information. So that sheet that I printed out and handed to you, let's not accidentally leave it somewhere, right? Because some other kid could pick it up and be like, oh, that kid wet the bed, right? So I'm just thinking about sort of consent and confidentiality.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm surprised
Yeah.
that didn't come up. Yeah. I wish I'm not there yet. Oh, I can't wait. It'll be different, but I cannot wait. Especially we're getting, brand new student leaders who didn't go to outdoor school. So sometimes I feel like I have a whole site full of sixth graders. They're just taller. But I would maybe it'll happen soon, but not yet.
Do we have time for a question? I have a question. So I'm really appreciated your kind of how you're using data to inform actions for specific students, but then also for the specific program. And that bigger piece, which you led to some program changes, right? You like talked about the passive spaces and the creation of these places on campus. Um, can you just kind of dig around and talk around like the meaning making that took you from the form to the program change and how you did that within, I heard you say, I got to claim my lane, right? Like how you did that in a participatory structure. That would just be really helpful. And yeah, for me to hear.
Well, I think they were really surprised when I showed up here, just in general. Like, I'm a different kind of nurse and bring a different perspective to the table. And so they're like, you're supposed to be down at your nurse's station doing something. I'm like, well, first of all, it's not a nurse's station. Like, we're not here because we're sick. Like, I'm not here. Don't get sick. I'm like, stay healthy all week, please. Like, so that's kind of how it started, and then, or how it starts. But then I think being able to say, look, majority of students are worried about sleep, for example, and then bring some data around developing brains, cognition, learning, sleep, like rest, rocking, taking a break, like why do we have this grind culture out here? Like, can we sit in a rocking chair while we wait? Like, I think so, and so it's just slowly. That's why I kept calling it passive programming. It was like, I'm just going to put these 2 rocking chairs here and see what happens because I'm not in program, right? I'm at the nurse's station. Now it's called the Hawk's Nest, but like it took a while to like change the construct. Like, I'm not here for when you get sick. I'm here all day, every day, so you don't get sick. I'm here all day, every day, so you don't have a meltdown and lash out and punch somebody, like, or whatever the thing is, or if you pee the bed, like, tell me now, and we will make sure no one knows, and you get a good hot shower, and let's take great care because these things happen. Like, what can that all look like, subtly, without intervening? I think the lane stuff has been interesting because for me, everything is health and wellness. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. Like, we got to think about the path that they take to get to the animal's hike. What does that look like? Or why do we fix these stairs? And the site team is like, why are you worrying about the stairs? I'm like, because someone's gonna fall and then I have to deal with it. Like, so things like that just keep coming up, and I'm like, it's health and wellness. And then they're like, ah, you're right.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just heard there was no official, like, let's talk about these eval results, right? And like apply them. You took them and just like lovingly sat there and was persistent and like drove these things. Is that cool? Rad.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, definitely. Little posters. I've like learned how to use a laminator. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I'm like, no one will do it. Okay, I can do it. I know how to print, things like that. So, mhm.
What I love is that your work is not just about using the data to support students, but it sounds like you're actually changing the culture of the adults too, around how they think about health and wellness.
Yeah, it's a long week out here. And I think it's important for all of us to be thinking about, how am I feeling right now? Or when did I have the last glass of water? Or what's that tickle in my throat? I'm like, don't ignore it. I don't want you sick. I'm a nurse. I don't want anyone to be sick, whatever sick looks like.
Well, thank you both
Thank you.
for the work that you do, as you just described so beautifully, and for being here to share your story with us.